Greetings and love. That's one of my own. There you go. Well, wants to hear the whole story of how I cut my eye. So I was fixing a computer and I literally just picked the mouse up to move it somewhere else, and the cable got caught on a chair leg, table leg. It curled and then whipped round, and so when I just moved the mouse over there, just the cable whipping off. And is one of these old style mouse, okay, with a round metal, and that's quite sharp, jagged metal there, and that just scored itself right across the front of my eye, before my eyelid had a chance to close. It was done. Oh, it's like, oh my god, no. So, well, it didn't hurt straight away. Now, a bit of background, I worked in nightclubs in the 90s, and I had a piece of flying glass in my right eye, which is the most pain I've ever known by a million miles. And that took a little while to heal, and done and dusted and moved on with my life. But if I'm ever in A&E or anything like that, or a dentist or something, and they ask me to use a scale to describe some pain, I always start by saying, well, I've had glass in my eye, so that's my 10. Okay, so yeah, so you sawing my leg off at the moment with no anaesthetic, that's a 4. You know, me being on fire at the moment, yeah, that's about a 5 or a 6, because I've had a glass in my eye, and that's my 10. So I knew what was coming. I knew the pain that was on its way. There was a bit of a delay, and then poof, oh. I had a horror in A&E, an absolute nightmare, because I wouldn't sit still. I mean, I was writhing in pain. I couldn't speak through the pain, and it's not like it's like, oh right, yes, okay, this eye, you can just cover it over and use this eye. This eye moves, and this eye moves with it. There's no blood. So they just thought I was exaggerating or whatever, I don't know. And they wouldn't have it, and they were getting security to throw me out on the street because I wouldn't sit still with my arms folded, quietly waiting. At one point they dumped me in this room. I mean, I couldn't see. I'd stumbled into this woman in a wheelchair, and this nurse is telling me off. I'm like, I can't see. I mean, and I'm crying with agony. I'm actually crying with the pain. And I'm one of those, I'm with Prince, you know, always cry for love, never cry for pain. And I've held that my entire life. Even the glass in my eye in the 90s didn't make me cry. This, I was blubbing like a child. I was blubbing like a 4-year-old that's fallen over and skinned his knee and, you know, bumped his nose and chin on the pavement. And yeah, and at one point, and so she's telling me off. I can't see. Drag me into this room, plonk me down on this chair. They go to examine me, and I couldn't let them do it because of the agony. And they're like wanting to do this, look into my eye, and it's like, you need to get some of those eye drops, anaesthetic eye drops. I know they exist because I had an eye injury in the 90s, etc. They plonk me down in this room, sit me down, and I hit my elbow. And she starts shouting at me like, that's an expensive machine. I'm like, I don't know, I can't see, can I? I don't know, you just plonked me down next to an expensive machine. And what did you do that for? There's a whole hour's worth of a video on my treatment in A&E. It was a horror. So at one point this nurse just grabbed my face, pulled me back and went like that to look, and I screamed like something else. I'm surprised I didn't bite her. It wasn't something I wanted to do. It was a reaction. I screamed. This doctor came running through, obviously recognised a, you know, a guttural scream of genuine pain when he hears it. He comes running through, puts some eye drops in. Had to keep going and waiting, and you know, at one point they had security standing by me. They discharged me home, and then I couldn't get home. So from the hospital to my home, it's about 3 miles maybe. And I was walking. My eyes closed. It was a bright sunny day, and I'm walking my eyes closed like this, using the fence to walk, and I'm navigating like this. And I got a certain way, and some lad stopped to help me. Phoned a taxi. The taxi turned up. Yeah, they discharged me. I had a bandage on my eye. The taxi turned up and then drove off. He's like, "No, he's got a bandage. He needs an ambulance," and phoned off. This kid phoned an ambulance, and because I was conscious and lucid, they wouldn't send an ambulance. So I'm just stuck. I was on Princess Avenue somewhere with this lad. Still to this day don't know who it was. Anyway, he walked me home. He walked me the full to my back door, because I literally couldn't see. And then at some point later on, it was getting worse and worse and worse, and I had got some morphine off a friend, I had some tramadol off a friend, I had cocodamol, ibuprofen, everything I could lay my hands on. And at some point I got into a taxi again. This might have been my 3rd visit to A&E, and I turned up unconscious in the back of this taxi. And when I came to, I'm in A&E with 2 security guards standing over me. I turned up unconscious. Yeah. Anyway, thankfully, at some point, I think after my 3rd trip to A&E, they started to take me seriously, and I was referred to the eye clinic, and glory be, they have been fantastic ever since then. So anyway, I get home, blah blah blah, and I'm in a really tough spot now because I can't sleep because of the eye. The cut is on the front of the lens, and after about 72 hours it starts to heal. So the first 72 hours, I don't know what. I mean, I didn't sleep, I was on all kinds of things. And then at some point I start kind of sleeping. So to prevent myself from going to a real deep sleep, where what's happening, I'm waking up, because in deep sleep after about 4 hours you go into REM, rapid eye movement, and the eye dries up as well. So the rapid eye movement tears the wound open, and then when the eye stops, that fresh wound then dries and sticks to the inside of the eyelid. So your first action on waking is to scream, because you it's like, ah! The action of opening your eyelid tears this wound open. So you want to go and look on the internet. There was something I saw on this medical page. Why does corneal abrasion hurt so much? Frankly, because the pain receptors are configured differently to elsewhere to the other pain receptors in the body, and they are hundreds or thousands of times more sensitive than other pain receptors. Your eye wants to know exactly what's going on. Just think, a bit of strong wind can make your eyes water. So the level of pain, it was literally unmanageable. So I knew what the problem was, and I knew what the potential solution was. It's just a matter of time. At this time as well, I'm having a major problem with my landlord at my house, and I'm being forced to move. So I'm house hunting with eye patch on, and I'm kind of on and off. I'm trying to stop myself from sleeping altogether, so I'm lying on my bed fully clothed during daylight with the curtains open. And I'm using a lot of drugs during this period as well, a lot of drugs. So it comes to house moving. I find a house, so we're going to be moving house, and I'm doing it mostly alone. I had a friend or two who were helping me, but I hired a van, and I hired it for the full weekend, the full 3 days of the weekend, because even if it only takes one trip, I might need 3 days to do that one trip, because I can't guarantee in any one 24-hour period that I'm going to be able to function as a human being, because once that eye is in that level of pain attack, you can't function, you can't do anything, and the things that you do to try and get through that pain, which is normally copious amounts of drugs, knocks you out. You're useless for 24 to 72 hours. So anyway, I hire this van and I go cold turkey off all the drugs, especially the morphine. No way I'm driving on morphine, holy crap. Morphine, you are literally 3 seconds behind the curve. Whatever happens in the cosmos, you are 3 seconds behind. You could happily drive into a brick wall, you wouldn't care for 3 seconds. You could sit in a burning house on morphine quite happily. So yeah, anyway, I moved house. I did one trip, I did a couple of trips. I did it one weekend with the van, then the rest of it was mainly by hand. So I had a cart fixed on the back of my bike. I'd load that up, I'd do a trip. I had a friend with a car who helped me with a couple of loads as well. So all in all, moving house, it took me 6 weeks. So I was in a phase where I was trying not to sleep whenever possible, and I was doing a lot of pain-killing drugs. So I was deteriorating fast, and during the 6 weeks of the house move, I would say, do you know how tired or knackered I was? I had to get this done. So I'd cycle down there, I'd load the bike up, cycle back. The physical effort of doing that, 1 hour's work, that was enough for me for one day. That was it. I was exhausted. So from February, March, April, May, I moved in May and June. It's such a haze of time. I can't really describe exactly when and where things happened. So during this 6 week process of moving house, I got into a pattern of practically not sleeping at all, and over this 3-month period I lost 3 stone. 3 stone in 3 months, and I was only about 11 stone to start with. I've disappeared. Look at that, my biceps. It's starting to come back now, but there's nothing that I've eaten through all of my muscle mass, and I was flat out exhausted, and at each level of exhaustion I still had to keep going, and so I moved house, and during that period I got into the pattern of either not sleeping. So I'd miss a night sleep, and then the next night I'd start sleeping in 4-hour batches, and I'd be sleeping either on top of the bed or on the couch downstairs during daylight. So I'd wait till about 4:30 in the morning to start going to bed, and I'd set an alarm for 4 hours to prevent me going into deep sleep. And that's a pattern that I was set in for a fair while. The last time I fully slept, and I mean, I traditionally, all throughout my life, I can go to sleep, I can do 16 hours without rousing. I love my sleep. The last time I slept was mid-April, and it was Easter weekend, and that sleep, I slept for, I don't know, I was exhausted, physically exhausted through packing and things like that, the fighting with my landlord, not physically fighting, but you know, the emotional drain from that, having to house hunt, dealing with the eye injury, dealing with the pain, the copious amounts of drugs. I was all over the place. And at some point in April, in the middle of April, it was Easter weekend, I fell asleep on my bed and had a proper night's sleep, probably slept for about 12 hours, and I woke up and tore it apart. That was Easter Sunday, or I think it was Easter Monday. Now, from the eye clinic, they give you an emergency number. I phoned this emergency number, and about half an hour later, well, some nurse took some details, and about half an hour later, a doctor phoned me back from the ward. He's talking to me on the phone, and he says, yeah, get in a taxi and come here. So I get in a taxi, I go down to the ward, and I get treated there and then on the ward. I mean, there's nothing they can do. He gave me some pain relief, and he takes a look, and it's like, yeah, we know what the issue is, don't we? It's, you know. So that was Easter weekend. That was the last time I slept properly beyond 4 hours. So for that 3-month period from when I first cut my eye, it took a little while for the penny to drop as to how serious this was. It should take 72 hours to heal, and that's pretty much it. It's just a case of managing it, using drops so that it doesn't get too dry at night, but this was not healing. In fact, for the first 3 months, the wound was getting bigger. And at one point in April, so I think this was after this Easter weekend, I was having an exam, and the nurse practitioner said, I'm just measuring it now, and she's looking through her scope at my eye and doing this, and she's writing down, and I saw her write 6 mm. And I meant to say something, I meant to ask her, but I thought, I'll wait. Because I meant to say to her at the time, what kind of measurement is mm? Micrometers, or what kind of crazy measurement is that? But she preempted me, because when she finished, she sat there, she was like, it's now, the wound was 6 millimeters by 4 millimeters. So yeah, it was millimeters, it wasn't any kind of tiny, this was big and getting bigger. Part of the problem was it wasn't a clean wound. It's a gouge. It was a trench out, and she drew a picture for me, and it kind of looks like a map of Crete. It's all jagged, and a couple of times they've literally gone at it with a scalpel, and they've been there. I've got my eye in this device, and they're there, and they take a scalpel, and they've cut bits off because the wound was jagged. They've been trying to straighten the edges to promote it to heal, and also because after this night in April, it being torn apart in REM sleep, and so there's just bits of my lens just hanging off all over the place. She said it literally is a right mess. So she's going at it with a scalpel, cutting bits off. So I'm in the situation where it's getting worse, and it's sleep that is doing it. So how can I stop sleeping? I can't just stop sleeping altogether. So this is when I really realised it was very serious, and this is where I started the real pattern of setting an alarm for 4 hours and going to bed. Not going to bed during the dark, so I'm either going to bed on the couch normally during daylight. So I got into the habit of, I was going for walks at midnight, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, coming back, getting to bed about 4:30, setting an alarm for 4 hours. And the level of exhaustion meant that sometimes I was staying in bed for maybe 2 days, sometimes even 3 days, just in bed, lying and resting and sleeping in these 4-hour stages. And when you're at that level of tiredness and exhaustion, a 4-hour sleep, it doesn't satiate you, it doesn't refresh you. So that's how I live my life at the moment. It has eased off a lot. It is basically healed, but sleep is the problem. If I didn't have to sleep, it wouldn't be a problem. So I still generally wait till daylight, and I'm still on a couch. I'm not setting an alarm anymore because I've been doing it for so long now. My body naturally wakes up. But this is the problem I had last night. I'd been exercising, I'd physically tired myself out, and I went and laid down about midnight, didn't set an alarm, and I slept too long. And yep, there it was. Woke up, bang, straight away. It's like a dagger in your eye. So I've lost a good 24 hours ish, just kind of bringing that down and managing that, and making sure I keep getting the drops in the eye. You can feel it scratching. So yeah, I've got a lot of management to do. So basically the problem we are at now is it's healed as much as it can on its own. The first 3 months it was getting worse and worse and worse. Then I really put this pattern in to stop sleeping. I mean, generally I was every other night I was going without sleep, and then often I was going 2 nights without sleep, and then sometimes 3 nights. There was a time in May, June-ish. I wish I'd kept a closer diary. It's difficult to remember, but I thought I was going to go mad or have a heart attack. Either way, I couldn't see myself coming out of this, either without losing the eye or dying or becoming mad. It was going to drive me insane. I somehow found some zen place to park at times. So let me give you an example of the real depth of the pain. I actually had an appointment at the eye clinic this one morning, and it had been just hell for a couple of days, and this one morning it was just hell on earth. It was as bad as it could ever be. So 6 o'clock in the morning I phoned the eye clinic, and they're like, there's nothing we can do. If you come in now, you're still waiting till after 9 o'clock to see a doctor anyway. You're just going to have to bite down and take the pain and come in at 9 o'clock as normal. So, I mean, I'm blubbing. I am sat on the floor downstairs with a quilt over me. At some points I was sat, there's this middle landing, which is the darkest point of the house, with shades on and a quilt over me, just sobbing my eyes out. So the only relief I could find then, I had 3 hours till I was at the clinic to see a doctor anyway. Lying down, see, these painkillers, the codeine, even the morphine, it doesn't hit the pain. It can lull you or dull you into a kind of a place where you can kind of sleep it off. But it can take a couple of hours for that to, you know, you have to get yourself into a place. Crying makes it worse. The tears, really, really painful. Sweat makes it worse. When the sweat gets into your eye, holy crap, does that hurt. So, and lying down, see, this one day, even just lying down, the pressure, I couldn't get any relief. Lying left, lying right, and lying back, the pressure of the eyelid on top of the eyeball was horrendous. So for 3 hours, the relief I found was to stand still. So I'm just standing, and if I pressed on the flesh like that a little bit, it would just sort of pull the eyelid a little bit off the eye, and I could get some relief. So I stood there for 3 hours. Just, the other complication is that, did you know that you blink when your eyes are closed? So when you're like that, you're still blinking inside. Horrific. So I'm like this, and I'm trying to settle my eyes into not moving at all. It feels like, you know, it feels like there's glass in that eye, or the eye is literally on fire or something like that. It goes against every biological screaming urge to just stand there still while this pain is going on. So I'm standing there just holding the eye like this, and just stood there for 3 hours while I waited for this taxi to take me to the clinic. That's yeah, it's horrific. So, you know, they've tried. We've been using contact lenses, these banded lenses that you wear day and night, and so yeah, it's been 6 months, and here I am, and this is how I'm having to manage it. The last hurdle is, it has essentially healed, but it hasn't healed back smooth. So the surface of the eye has come back, it's kind of corrugated and lumpy, and it needs to be perfectly smooth to sit underneath the eyelid. So what starts to happen, and what was happening at the worst point, is REM sleep. The eye doesn't just move up and down, it moves sideways as well. So it's like this, moving about all over the place. And so just picture, I've got a cut on the front of my eye, on the lens, and during REM sleep that cut is actually scratching a fresh cut onto the inside of the eyelid, which in turn scratches back onto the eye. Sleep is the worst. Any other physical injury, you could take your meds, it's like, I'll just go to sleep and let it heal while I'm sleeping. But no, it's the exact opposite. The only way to heal this is to not sleep. So yesterday, was it? I think I had an appointment to go to. I'd had 4 hours sleep, and I was physically, mentally, emotionally drained and exhausted. But somehow plod on in this semi-zombie state, and you just carry on. And sometimes I just flatline for 2 days, 3 days, and cannot function for 2 or 3 days. I'll just stay in bed practically. I've started using protein shakes, and I've started exercising to try and get my strength back, but physical exercise can cause a problem with the eye. So I'm waiting. Next week I go and see the specialist, who is now going to refer me to Leeds for surgery, and what they will do is laser surgery, just smooth it off so that the eye sits under that eyelid, and I can go to sleep, and during REM sleep it doesn't tear itself apart. So that's next week. At the moment I'm on Universal Credit, which is killing me in a separate way. I have so many forms to fill in, the stupid online system, and it's like, I've got an eye injury, There's things I could be selling if I could spend the time on a computer online, but I can get 2 or 3 hours and it starts hurting. Watching telly's kind of okay. I watch telly with shades on, but using a computer, using a camera, I've got 2 or 3 hours and I'm knackered. So yeah, that's my horror story. Gone on a bit, but gone on a bit longer than I expected as well. 6 months. Just parked my life for 6 months while I deal with this injury. So I'm hoping we're in the last phase of this. Yeah, so I don't sleep really, kinda. I go to bed 4 hours, sleep in 4-hour bursts, and can't go out in the daylight. That sunshine at the moment is murderous on my eye. Using eye drops all the time. These things at least once an hour. So without these, it starts to dry up, and you can literally feel on every blink it starts getting scratchy. So yeah. What an idiot.